The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt.
You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast.
Before we jump in, I want to quickly invite you to subscribe to the Level Up Living newsletter. This isn't a recap of the podcast. It's a monthly message that blends business and real life. Inside, you'll find the Pulse, where entrepreneurship meets everyday life, and the Boss Up section with practical business insights and a life and well-being section focused on staying healthy and balanced while you grow. If you want business growth without burnout, subscribe to the newsletter. Simply go to monicaallen.com and click on the bright purple button to get subscribed. Level Up Living, where business growth meets intentional living. Today's guest is someone who proves that you can build a business that's both deeply impactful and sustainable. Jennifer Myers is the owner and clinical director of Core Acupuncture, Health and Wellness, and she's been serving the Atlanta community for over a decade. She's a licensed and nationally board-certified acupuncturist with advanced training in everything from women's health and fertility to sports medicine and whole body wellness. But what makes this conversation special isn't just what Jennifer does, it's how she's built her business thoughtfully, intentionally, and on her own terms. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to run a solopreneur business long-term without burnout, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk with you because I know you are a solopreneur and you provide the service of acupuncture to people. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that business and why you decided to kind of go it alone.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I kind of came into acupuncture in a untraditional sort of way, but then I don't really know that there is a traditional way per se. I started as a fertility patient first, and I loved how acupuncture was able to fix things in my body. Some things I knew were wrong and other things I didn't, but we didn't use any sort of medication. It was very much just felt very natural. And at the same time, I was also in a very stressful career. I had for years known that I was in a career that was not a good fit for me and was causing me a lot of stress. I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing with my life. Funny enough, I'd got my undergrad in business, bachelor's in business, not knowing what I was going to do with it, but just thought, well, gosh, that's a good foundation to have. And I think somewhere in the back of my head, I was thinking that I was going to be my own boss someday. I just didn't know what I was going to be the boss of. I had no clue. Fast forward to me having some fertility challenges and seeking out acupuncture when I wasn't getting the results through Western medicine. And I do honestly feel like that was one of the sneaky things that acupuncture addressed for me, is it helped me all of a sudden kind of change how I was seeing things and how my ability to problem solve, if you call it that. Because I remember one day after getting acupuncture for a few months, all of a sudden just having that aha moment where I was like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. And what I was doing wrong was trying to figure out what my next big career step was going to be. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to be doing. And so acupuncture really helped me figure out that I didn't know it at the time, but that the next step was to become an acupuncturist.
That's interesting. That's a very unique story on kind of how you became that. Tell us about that transition. What made you take that path?
One of the things that the acupuncturist told me was that my current career was causing me so much stress in my body that it was a big inhibitor to us getting pregnant. And it was not a surprise to me. I 100% agreed with her. My career choice was very stressful. I didn't get into what I was doing. And just so you know, I was in financial investments.
Oh, fun.
So that was not where I wanted to be. In my mind, when I graduated with my undergrad, I was just getting in that field to just start getting some experience and creating a resume for some future something. And I ended up just staying in there doing various different jobs at different times over the course of about, I guess, maybe like 15 years. But everything I tried, I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the thing that'll fit and feel like home. And it may for a little bit, but then it ended up just feeling more stressful too. And I always had the philosophy that I wanted to run towards something more than I was running away from something. So as badly as I knew I was in the wrong career, I didn't want to just keep hopping around to different jobs for the sake of just running away from financial investment. I think that that's how acupuncture helped me kind of figure out how to start figuring out what that was. And it's not a secret by any means. I think it's something that we all do every day, is that I kind of made three columns. And in the first column, it was all the things in my current career that I wanted to keep doing. Then the second column was all the things in my current career that I absolutely never wanted to do ever again. And then the third column was like my wish list. It was like, what is it that I would love to be doing that I am not doing right now? And then every time I kind of went out in the world and was like, oh, maybe I'll be an author, write a book. And then I would take it back to my three columns and I would see how many boxes it would check. And I'd already kind of made a rule for myself that if it checked half or less, then I just discarded the whole career as a possibility and didn't give it a second thought. But if it checked at least half, but not quite all, then I would shelf it and be like, maybe you might be my next career, but I'm not going to give you any more time or energy right now until I exhausted all my other resources. And then I probably got acupuncture the day that I thought, what if I put acupuncture to my columns? And when I did, I couldn't believe, like, it pretty much checked all the dang boxes. And I was like, huh. And it was funny because I had no idea what it would even take to become an acupuncturist. I had no idea that I had to go back and get a master's degree. If you had told me that and led with that, I probably would have never even taken acupuncture and put it onto my list to compare it, because I think I felt like when I graduated with my undergrad that I was done. I did not enjoy school the first time around, but I think a lot of that, just had to do with the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was going to be.
Right. And that makes sense. I love how systematic you were, though, with figuring out kind of what you wanted to do, what you wanted your next step to be. I think that was just not just brave, but just very smart to do that, to write it down. I think writing down stuff is so important.
It makes it a little more objective,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we can get lost in our feelings really easily. I probably could have talked myself in and out of almost any career option that came my way. And I didn't want to do that. Making the lists ahead of time and then making my rules for the list, I think was just really, really a key piece, and saying like, okay, I said this was the rule. I'm not going to try and talk myself in and out of it or change the rules in midstream.
Right. To make it fit what you wanted it to fit. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you're in acupuncture. Did you initially work with or under someone, or did you just, once you finished school, you went right into working on your own?
A little bit of both. I knew I did not want to work for anyone else. So when I graduated with the mindset I'm starting at my own practice. But Georgia it's the only state, I think, that has one of these little funny rules where they don't quite trust that you know what you're doing yet when you graduate from with your degree and have a year's worth of seeing patients in a clinical supervised environment. For that first year, I had to kind of hook my wagon to someone else's train. So I had to find an acupuncturist in Georgia that was willing to say that they would just keep an eye on me for a year. And so in that respect, I was working alongside another practitioner for a year, but still running my own practice and trying to get it off the ground. So from day one, it really was starting my own business.
When you did that, were there any fears or doubts in the back of your mind? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, there were tons of them. Yeah, never starting a business before. I think that there was a ton of fear and doubt. Business world had changed a lot since I'd gotten my undergrad. Some things obviously were the same, but there was a lot of stuff that had changed. I was really great at helping other people run their businesses in the investment world, but I hadn't actually started up and ran my own. All those behind the scenes of like the legalities of setting up a business and, getting your business tax ID and do I do an LLC and what am I going to call it and all those sort of things. So I think that stuff can really take up a lot of time too. And so it's like, oh yeah, I can't do too much over here because I need to start seeing patients. So I think there was a lot of like, I think I can. I hope I can. Fingers crossed. Or just
Right.
be all in and try it.
Right, exactly. And just kind of speaking of that, having to compartmentalize and know that you have to see patients, but know that you also have to actually run your business. How do you balance today? How do you balance being the CEO, the marketing team, customer service, just everything in between?
I think having systems is key. And then also kind of blocking out time for certain things. So I have Monday through Friday when I see patients. It used to be a much more loose schedule. I was like, oh, I'll show up at 8 and I'll leave at 5:30 or 6. And then everything in between there was open game for seeing patients. And over time, I think what I've realized the importance of saying like, no, like my work day may be that time frame, but I can't wear the hat of being a practitioner and the hat of the business manager at the same time because it's just for me, it's just so different. Carving out time every day to be like, okay, I'm seeing patients between these hours and these hours, and then these other hours are designated for marketing or running my monthly numbers and, things like that.
Yeah, that seems to me too, Jennifer. Like it kind of goes back to how practical you were with deciding your next career, just like also having those buckets for things you have to do to make sure your business runs effectively.
I mean, it's so important, right? We can't not do marketing. We have to, do social media posts. Those are not things I necessarily love to do, but it is the nature of the beast.
It is. Yeah. If you don't do the marketing, you won't have your next patient, maybe. You have to keep it going. If you had one task though that you could secretly like, or you secretly wish to get rid of, what would that one task be? If you could get rid of it tomorrow.
Oh, that's funny. It probably actually would be the marketing. I don't like putting myself on camera. I don't like doing, and so like when Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff was just you creating static posts, I was like, all right, I'll do this. But then when it became like, no, people are clicking on photos or clicking on videos or clicking on
Right.
reels or, and I was like, oh, I don't think I like this anymore. Yeah. I feel like that creative space, it takes me a minute to get in it. And then once I'm in it, it's like, well, now I'm here. I want to stay here for a minute, but you can't, you got to go on to the next task. So yeah, I still feel like marketing and advertising is the piece that I don't feel like I'm really good at it, first of all.
Yeah. Well, you're in business, so you're doing something right. And speaking of that, how long have you been in your business core acupuncture?
I opened in 2014 after I passed national board exam. So I graduated from school in 2013 in early fall, and then took about 6 months to do all my board exams, and then opened up the doors in spring of 2014.
Congratulations, over 10 years.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah, that is great. True blessing. Have you ever thought about quitting? Have you ever thought about like, oh, this is just too much?
Honestly, I don't think I have. I mean, I tell people, and I really do feel this way, like I feel like I work 10 times harder running my own thing than I ever did working at running somebody else's. But it's so rewarding on so many levels, the flexibility, the freedom, and just knowing like this whole thing is my baby. It's not someone else's. It's mine. It's that ownership of like, no, this is my thing and I know how I want it to be. I know how I like to be treated as a patient in the healthcare world. And so maybe not that's not as important to everybody else, but I know what's important for me. So I try to run my practice in that same sort of way, which I take a lot of pride in as well. As hard as it's gotten sometimes, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever thought about quitting.
I love that. And you get to help people in so many ways. I have the pleasure of being in BNI with you, Jennifer. And it's so great to hear your stories and how you share, how you're helping people. And I think that right there is just something to keep your fire burning because you're helping so many people accomplish their health goals. I love that.
Absolutely. I had a woman today that had had some fertility challenges, and I hadn't seen her for a minute because she'd taken a time out. And I saw her back on the schedule and I was so excited, but I also was kind of like, gosh, I wonder where we're at now because she took this time out. And I was just, anyways, she walked in the door and the first words out of her mouth was, I'm pregnant. And I just went, oh my gosh, you just made my whole day, my whole week, my whole month. I'm like, I am just, and that is, it's those moments that just make everything worth it. Just to know that you had a small piece in that whole process, making
Yeah.
people's dreams come true. They're solving their health challenges, like all of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That would make my day too. I love that. What's one mindset shift that has made the biggest difference in this journey for you?
Gosh, if there were only one. And I feel like I'm still
Two or three.
shifting. Yes, yes, or 10 or 20. I feel like I'm still definitely shifting to this day. I feel like in some ways, some of the biggest mind shifts have happened more recently. And it's, I think probably how to dream even bigger than I thought. When I first started, I kind of had this kind of idea in my head of like, oh, if I could make this much running my own business, like that's going to be a success. And I feel like in the last handful of years, I've realized like, oh, I need to figure out how to dream bigger. So I think for me, it's like figuring out what's getting in the way of my ability to even think even bigger than I've been thinking, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. It's interesting because I had someone on the podcast probably, I want to say it was maybe a year ago. And one of the questions I like to ask people is if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be? And that was hers. She said she wished she would have dreamt bigger, younger, because she kind of felt like she held herself back, not dreaming or thinking bigger. What skill have you had to learn or just to level up fast as a solopreneur?
Gosh, I think being flexible, I think being able to turn and take this hat off and throw this hat on, that it
Yeah.
may not fit into my hours that I have marked out. I think for me, that was one of the things and to just be able to be scrappy.
Yeah. Oh, the scrappy part.
Yes.
That is very true. Yeah. This makes me think of something because my daughter and some friends, they wanted to make a short film. And they were talking about, oh, well, this mom can get a camera crew and it's only going to cost each parent like $200. And I said, no. I said, you guys have got to figure it out. You all have like iPhones and all of this technology. Figure it out. Be scrappy because I'm not investing $200 in your short film. And they worked it out. I mean, hopefully it'll be out in October. We'll see. But got to learn early to be scrappy. I love that.
Yes, most definitely.
You mentioned thinking or dreaming bigger, and that's actually one of the questions I have for you is kind of what's the bigger picture you're building toward for your business?
I think in some ways I'm refiguring that. I think I'm not sure where it's going to go. I think in a perfect world, I would own my own building and I
Mhm.
would have other like-minded practitioners sharing this space with me. That would be great referral sources and building something that would go beyond when I feel like I'm done doing this. But I also am in this for the long term. Like I didn't get into being an acupuncturist with an end date in mind. I really got into this as kind of a form of lifestyle as well. So I think the what it looks like kind of keeps shifting and morphing and hopefully into something bigger and better each time.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you this question. If you could go back and tell your younger self something, you can go back as far as you want. What would it be?
I honestly feel like the dream bigger is huge, but I also feel like kind of telling her you can do it. Like
Yeah.
dream bigger and you can do it. I think there was a lot of mixed messages when I look back at my childhood and growing up of like, yeah, you can do it, but, and it was kind of like, what do you mean, but? Like, either I can or I can't. So I just feel like there was a lot of like, kind of can do it, but don't reach too big. Don't reach for all the stars. Maybe just grab for one. And I feel
Yeah.
like I would go back and be like, no, reach for all the damn stars.
I love that. Reach for all the damn stars. I love that. Oh, wow. That is very true though, because sometimes people do tell you you can do it, but it's like within these parameters, like don't shoot out too far and then you can do it for sure. But if you go too far, I don't know. I don't know if you can do it. Wow,
Yeah.
I like that. Now that you're in it 11 years, really,
Yeah.
and you're dreaming bigger, what do you want your legacy to be? I know that wasn't necessarily on the on the on the question list, but I love to talk about legacy, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I feel like that is probably a space that I will need to sit in and really think about that. For right now, today, I feel like I just want people to think of me as somebody that was a healer from the inside out. There's no magic in what I do, there's no mystery in it. I love to educate my patients. I don't try and be all like above them. So they just show up and like, I don't know what she's doing, but it works. And it's kind of like, no, let's talk about what I'm
Mhm.
doing and how you can become kind of a master of your own health and wellness. Like I think people just kind of feel like I'm getting older. This is what's to be expected. Oh, I'm not this. This is what's to be expected. Or I'm, whatever. Like they just try to kind of normalize our health and even the aging process. And so I would love to be able to help enough people really feel like, no, that's not necessary. And age is just a number in so many ways. And, have people be like, oh, yeah, like she helped me realize. And then because of that, they were able to live longer, healthier lives. I saw a patient not too long ago, and they were well into their 70s, taking no medications, very
Oh, wow.
active lifestyle. And I just said to them, I'm like, you're doing so much, so right. And I said, I'm honored to just hop on and continue to support you as you continue living your best life.
Yeah, that's a legacy right there for sure. For sure. Well, I've had the pleasure of utilizing your services as well, Jennifer. Can you, and maybe I should have said this in the beginning, but can you just explain to people a little bit about what acupuncture is and how it helps people?
Absolutely. I think the best way to explain acupuncture is I tell people that ever since the moment we come into this world, the day that we're born, 24/7, our body is working to keep us alive. And we are born with all these amazing systems that are designed to do just that, to heal us and keep us healthy and keep us alive. And so, what acupuncture is doing is really just providing support to all of these systems using these teeny tiny needles, which I know makes everybody freak out. But hopefully, you can attest as well that they're mostly, like, you hardly ever feel them mostly. And it's just using these needles basically as an access point to access these systems and be able to give them the support that they need. And then by doing that, then our bodies work more efficiently so that if we do get sick or injured, then our body has the resources available to be able to address those little hiccups that may come up in life.
I love it. Yes, the needles, I barely feel them. They're great. I mean, let me just say this. I'll be coming to see you again soon. I'll just say that. But no, it's really great. And Jennifer, I'll make sure I put all your contact info in the show notes because if you're in the Atlanta area, you can book some time with Jennifer. Jennifer, do you do any type of work virtually? I mean, I know you can't put needles in people, but is there any type of virtual support that you can have with people as well?
I'm always happy to have a conversation with anybody just to talk about how acupuncture can help. And then
Mhm.
I'm always also happy to help people find someone in their area. I mean, there's acupuncturists all over the country. And so chances are there's somebody close to wherever that person may be. And it's just a matter of helping them find a person that's close to them that they can go and see and start getting support for.
Yeah. Do you foresee yourself in the future perhaps hiring some people, or are you gonna solopreneur it out for a little bit longer?
It's really funny because I feel like working with teams and other people, and even in our clinical year, we had a very large class. So our clinic was run by a lot of different personalities and we didn't all see things the same way. And I think it kind of left a taste in my mouth that I was like, you know what? I don't even know that I like that. So for the longest time, I really did feel like I never wanted to hire anybody else. I always only wanted to be as big as what I could control. And so I do run a very efficient practice. And I think it was only in the past couple of years that I started realizing like, well, maybe hiring people wouldn't be so bad, especially if it's going to help me see more people and reach more people. So it's only been recently, I think that yes, I've been open to the idea. And now it's just trying to figure out like, well, what does that look like? And
Right.
another practitioner, is it a staff person? If it's a staff person, what roles are they going to fill and that sort of thing? I definitely see adding one here in the next maybe year or so. I just don't know quite yet what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me, sharing a bit of your story, how you're handling solopreneurship and all of that good stuff. I really do appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jennifer, thanks so much for joining the Become Your Own Boss family. You can see Jennifer's contact info in the show notes. And thank you for listening today. While owning your own business can be very challenging, the shoes of a sole proprietor, aka solopreneur, can be tough to fill. You have to wear a lot of hats while still serving your clients. And truthfully, this is where many of us start in our business. I was just chatting with Ethan a few days ago, and while we have grown our businesses in the past, where we've had teams and things like that, he started a new company where he is currently back to being a solopreneur. And he's wearing all the hats, completing all the tasks, communication, marketing, updating his website, speaking, providing client services, and I'm quite sure so much more. Next week, we will discuss some valuable takeaways from our conversation with Jennifer. Takeaways that actually extend beyond solo business owners. These are pointers we can all use in our businesses. Be sure to tune in again next week. Also, really quickly, do me a favor and take a moment to go over to Apple or Spotify to leave a review for the podcast. This really helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Also, share this episode with a friend or fellow business owner. Remember, even if you are a sole proprietor, you are not alone in this. I and this podcast are on this journey with you. And remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.